You know, Sean, lately we've been seeing a big increase in the desire to silence conservatives. And we've been discussing cancel culture, it feels like for months now, since this summer. But it took a bit of a leap over a week ago when the president's Twitter account was banned, and he was banned from other social media sites as well.
That's right, Lyndsay. Then Parler, the alternative to Twitter, was banned and removed from the Apple and Google app stores. And then Amazon Web Services pulled it down completely. Then it took another big jump when Oliver Darcy, CNN's so-called media reporter, demanded that cable providers like Comcast, DirecTV, and Verizon drop Newsmax TV. Of course, he failed to note that CNN is owned by AT&T, which controls two big cable providers, Time Warner Cable and DirecTV. So this was really him just signaling his corporate overlords in New York. And what he also failed to mention was this little tidbit. Because of viewers like you, Newsmax's ratings have been skyrocketing, both on cable and online. And that matters because Newsmax is now a legitimate competitor to them. We are now the fourth largest cable news network, and growing. So what he's also not subtly doing is trying to snuff out the competition here, and frankly, any dissenting voices that might challenge the left-wing coverage of CNN. Well, CNN's attempt to silence us and you continued this weekend on their show Reliable Sources, which I find a bit ironic considering the liberal and unreliable nature of its host, guests, and segments. Reliable Sources host Brian Stelter lined up a panel to denounce us. And quite frankly, you, our viewers. Take a listen to what Alex Stamos, a former Facebook security officer, had to say.
And we're going to have to figure out the OANN and Newsmax problem. You know, that these companies have freedom of speech, but I'm not sure we need Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, and such to be bringing them into tens of millions of homes.
Figure out the Newsmax problem. Translation: how to ban us, censor us, blacklist us, deplatform us, and how to silence us and create state TV that CNN and MSNBC can dominate. Now, as I mentioned, Newsmax is available on cable and online. You can literally watch us anywhere that you can get the internet. So we pose a unique threat to the left. But Stamos went even further because he doesn't just want us off cable. He also wants us off the internet. This is what he had to say. We have to turn down the capability of these conservative influencers to reach these huge audiences. There are people on YouTube that have larger daytime audiences than CNN. Wow. He's threatened by you. You get that, right? If you're not watching CNN, that's bad. Well, CNN's Oliver Darcy echoed that sentiment in a tweet. Just remember that neither Verizon, AT&T, nor Comcast have answered any questions about why they beam channels like OANN and Newsmax into millions of homes. Do they have any second thoughts about distributing these channels given their election denialism content? They won't say. Get ready. Here they come, folks. But because of you and all of those that have been telling your friends and family about us, we are here to stay, and we will not be stopped. Interestingly, later in the same show, though, they discussed how they were going to cover Biden. Listen to what White House correspondent for Politico, Eugene Daniels, had to say about that.
Joe Biden, you know, he's going to do his job from the Resolute desk. He's not going to be tweeting and firing people from that. And so we're going to have to be more creative because even now asking questions, they are running a tighter ship than the Trump administration, to say the least.
Already running a tighter ship. Really? They're not even in administration yet. Biden hasn't been sworn in. And what does he mean by creative ways? Is that like alternative facts, maybe? Maybe he means asking questions like this.
There are a lot of people out there who are supporting you or are inclined to not vote for the president who would say, why isn't Joe Biden angrier about all of this?
Mr. Biden, what flavor did you get?
We got one vanilla, one chocolate, but I wanted to get what we call black and white, so we're going to move it. In other words, we're going to split it.
Man, those are killer questions. Why aren't you angrier? What kind of ice cream did you get? Oof, how is he ever going to deal with this? These guys are vicious. Maybe, perhaps, he means the media should work for the administration so that they can receive thanks for their advocacy. Take a listen.
your help has been extremely important, because not only have you continued to amplify some of the things that we're trying to do here, but you've been in the weeds. And you've talked about the very policies that have been knocking around for a long time and that we've finally been able to get together and put into a plan. So I want to thank you for your advocacy as well.
Did you catch that? That's one of Biden's economic advisors thanking an MSNBC host for their advocacy, right? No one thinks that's a problem? Well, I guess it's different, right? Well, CNN host Brian Stelter jumped in on this whole idea without evidence, as he liked to say, about how the Biden press team is going to be a return to the regular traditions and interactions. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Everything this incoming White House is going to do is a contrast to the current White House. And in the case of the press secretary, lie-filled briefings and very few press briefings from the Trump White House.
I don't know why they're going to need a press secretary in the Biden administration. They have Brian Stelter and all these other folks that can just stay what their issues are and advocate for them. It's kind of ironic. But here's the funny thing. Nearly 4 years ago, I was the incoming White House press secretary. I held daily press briefings with Jason Miller leading up to the inauguration. Every single day we held one. Most of them were on by phone. And then I started to hold regular press briefings in person prior to the inauguration. And on January 19th, 2017, I held an on-camera one. Notice that it says incoming press secretary and incoming Trump administration. But guess what? The Biden administration, the one that Stelter says is going to return to normal traditions, aren't holding those kind of regular briefings. That's interesting, isn't it?
Sean, and you know what you see here from Brian Stelter, saying that these are not fact-filled briefings. I am sick of hearing terms like misinformation and disinformation being thrown around. When you hear people like Brian Stelter or AOC and the left, what they're trying to do is silence the media if they don't agree with you, and they're trying to use the term misinformation. You know, this is a dangerous path to go down. They're working to create a narrative that insinuates that all conservative ideology is false, and therefore it should be banned from all platforms. I mean, imagine this. Now being pro-life is somehow disinformation. Just because you disagree with something doesn't make it false information. This is a scary narrative that they are creating, Sean.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more, Lyndsay. It's like, if you don't agree with the liberal philosophy, then you're wrong. You need to be banned and canceled. It's ridiculous. And we're going to keep breaking this down. But I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, you know, and so we'll see where we go. But trust me, I think we're going to have a lot more of this on a much more regular basis going forward.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.